We're going to check out Redacted and monkeypox scare that the WHO's is trying to put on us. They're trying to use this as the second COVID. What's the truth?
Earlier this week, we warned that monkeypox was going to be declared a global crisis, and then that happened. The World Health Organization has declared that monkeypox is now a public health emergency of international concern. They're calling that PHEIC. Fake. This is what I'm going to call it.
That's the acronym?
Well, it's PHEIC.
Yeah.
I'm going to call it fake. It's a fake, okay? Because that's how I'm pronouncing that word,
That's great.
that acronym. You decide if you want to call it fake. I'm going to call it fake. You see what I'm doing there? Okay, so now they're calling it Mpox, though, because I guess that's a negative association with African gay men, the word monkey. Cases are rising in Africa, and they're telling us that it will spread.
African gay men are offended if we call monkeypox. So we have to call it Mpox. We live in a crazy world.
Abroad if we don't have international
If
cooperation.
anybody should be offended, it should be the monkeys, not the African gay men.
And then right on cue, as soon as they said that, now there are reports about the first case being confirmed outside of Africa in Sweden. Now, monkeypox was discovered in 1958 after outbreaks occurred in monkeys that were kept for research. So possible gain of function, spidey sense going on there. Here's the press release from the WHO about it this week. You should seek it out and read it for yourself. Okay, but how can we get monkeypox? Well, they're not actually being straight with us about that. Again, from this announcement this week, they say that it comes mainly through sexual networks, but also there are different modes of transmission and different levels of risk. I'm not comfortable with that.
Wait. Something called a monkeypox that you get through sexual networks with monkeys? That's the first thing come to my mind. Let's see.
Different. Like, how?
Yeah, be
How
specific.
do we know, given that it's a small outbreak and we're afraid that it could transmit? It's just, there's different ways.
There's different ways.
Like if I just run around rubbing my junk on things, I could be spreading monkeypox, or like what is different? I mean, that doesn't sound different.
Yeah.
Yeah. You could be touching cash, like back when you got COVID. Remember, you couldn't use cash. Maybe that's how you can spread monkeypox. But what's the different mode?
You have underwear made out of cash because it's mostly through your genitals. So is that a thing?
That's the only underwear I wear. Is underwear made out of cash.
Yeah, so this word different gives me pause. You would think that the media would say, well, wait. What are those? Can we narrow that down a little bit? Like, do you get it, from bungee jumping? Do you get it from, like, what? What are we talking about here? Different. In fact, in 2022, the WHO confirmed that it is spread through what they call MSM, or men who have sex with men. They published this document here to show that.
So it's a homosexual disease, and they call it monkeypox. If that's the truth, then why would any heterosexual be in danger of getting a homosexual disease? Does that make any sense? But let's sound the alarm. Danger, danger, danger.
Yes, it is mostly about gay sex, but we should not be homophobic about it. By the way, what is that graphic? We're talking about monkeypox and men who have sex with men, so they show us a phone?
They show like a phone of someone like trolling Grindr or one of the.
They couldn't have maybe showed us a photo of what the virus looks like or a man or something. Instead, it's just like men who have sex with men are constantly trolling on their phones. Isn't that a weird graphic? Anybody else think that that's strange?
Yes.
Okay, but the WHO, again, needs to define not just this MSM contact, but this different modes of transition. Maybe this is why former CDC Director Rochelle Walensky said in 2022 that 2 children had contracted monkeypox from gay men.
What?
We do have seen now 2 cases that have occurred in children. Both of those children are traced back to individuals who come from the men who have sex with men community, the gay men community. And so when we have seen those cases in children, they have generally been what I call adjacent to the community most at risk.
What?
Well, okay.
What? What the hell?
Wait. If it's a homosexual disease, children get it? Doesn't that sound like pedophilia?
Yeah. Why? What children in gay communities? Like children who happened to be in gay, like they had gay fathers? Or was it children who had been victims of sexual assault? Or
they're going to blame it on the jungle gyms again, and they're going to rope it off with police tape.
Okay. Again, but jungle gyms are not specific to the gay community. So it was children who got it from within the gay community.
They're going to find gay jungle gyms.
Okay.
And they're going to figure out how to keep the kids off of them.
Again, how does that happen? That's not just different. We deserve an answer. I don't want to know it, but I think we should ask. Now, monkeypox is not spread through the air. It is spread through skin contact, and it is usually a sexually transmitted virus, but different. And symptoms are similar to smallpox, but different. They're actually less severe normally. Monkeypox is rarely fatal, but the WHO says now that they have recorded 500 deaths, they are not telling us, what do we know about those deaths? How were the cases confirmed? Were there contraindications of those people's health? We don't get to know. So how did something with such a low fatality rate suddenly become so much more fatal? They say that they've had 1,500 cases this year and 500 deaths. That's a 1/3 fatality rate from something that was not formerly fatal. How'd that happen?
That's a frightening rate. I mean, that's Ebola rate. Fortunately, Ebola doesn't spread that well easily because that's a very high mortality rate.
Wow.
Yes, it is. How'd that happen all of a sudden? Now they're saying this is a new clade, which means it's a descendant of the original monkeypox organism. Now, I want to remind you, because you may think, haven't I heard this before? Yes, you have, because in fact, the WHO declared monkeypox a fake in 2022, but that ended in May of 2023 after a decline in cases. This week, WHO Dr. Maria Van Kerkhove said that a monkeypox, that it came back because we weren't paying attention to it.
Really?
These pathogens do not respect borders. There's a lot of things that are happening with Mpox. This is an outbreak that caused a public emergency of international concern. There was some attention to this. The tension waned. There's an ongoing outbreak that's happening, particularly this clade 1b, which we know is more severe than clade 2, is being detected in a number of additional countries. But this is detecting circulation. This can be stopped if we actually put a concerted effort into this. We do not want the world to sit and watch and wait until the time is now for us to take much more measures and provide much more support to the African region, to the countries that are affected across the entire spectrum, from surveillance to prevention to risk communication to clinical care to infection prevention control to R&D to the use of vaccines. It's now.
It's now.
Wait, if it's a homosexual disease, shouldn't there be a use of condoms or preventative vaccines? How does vaccine connect with just using a condom? Contraceptive? Or are you trying to push vaccines again?
I was wondering if she was going to get to vaccines. So surveillance, we need to watch all of you. Biometric scanners.
Glad you caught that.
We need vaccines right now. We need to roll these things out right now.
Yeah, and she thinks that viruses spread when we turn our back to them.
Urgency, panic. But nowhere did she mention it was a homosexual disease.
That's what happens. We just weren't paying attention, like a kid with a crayon. Okay, or that. Yeah, like when your kids are quiet in the living room. Yeah, then something's wrong, right? Then they're drawing on the walls with crayons. That's what viruses do.
Yeah, when you hear your children, they're quiet in the other room.
Yeah,
you know
you got Sharpie on the walls.
The Sharpie on the wall.
Yes,
and just like monkeypox.
You guys like covered this over a year ago of the this is what they're looking for is to anything that they can pull the trigger on the entire process. They don't want to wait for this to get into anything. They don't know that it's going to be anything, but they still want to run the entire process, the full gamut of what they got, and that's they've just been waiting.
I mean, I'm watching her say this, and I'm like, how can you say this in good conscience, knowing that we don't have all the answers yet to how it's differently transmitted? Mm-hmm. Why is it suddenly more fatal? What do we know about these fatalities? Like, how can you get up there and say this to the world? The only answer that I could give her is that her eyebrows are so strange that maybe she's a bot. I'm very distracted by her eyebrows.
It's akin to like, I was gonna say, it's akin to like if I hear a bump on my porch. And like my reaction is like I immediately call the police, start blasting through the door with a shotgun, flip on my floodlights, like unplug my internet, and just like everything I can possibly do in case there is an intruder or whatever. And it's like, but you don't know what that bump was. Yeah, it's a cat.
Right.
So,
right.
Exactly. Yeah, but also don't forget Africa, right? And don't forget, of course, the coverage that we've given it on the show here, the history of Bill Gates and his test. Whitney Webb, of course, has covered this here on the show. We've talked extensively about the testing of and rollout of vaccines and testing on people in Africa.
Well, let's talk about vaccines.
Unwitting population of Africa.
Yeah.
So it's a perfect place to roll out surveillance and digital IDs on an unwitting population when these billionaires can run and do this. Jeffrey Epstein specifically in Africa, working in coordination with Bill Gates in Africa. So don't forget about Africa in that way.
Oh, no, we're not going to. And in fact, this same doctor told us just last week, we played you a clip of her saying that COVID vaccines should be taken every 12 months, is what she said, because COVID cases are increasing. She did not say that there were more hospitalizations or death or severe COVID, just that we need to be taking the vaccines full stop. Well, in fact, there is a vaccine for monkeypox. It was not developed for this current strain, but the WHO now is calling for rapid development of a new one to be submitted for what they're calling emergency evaluation. So they want a quick vaccine. They want it to be fast-tracked. Does that sound familiar? And in fact...
Man, this sure sounds very, very familiar. The devil doesn't change his tricks ever. Because if it works, why change the tricks? It worked before.
In 2022, when the WHO first declared the monkeypox emergency, we reported this study from 2017, and people were, in fact, being stopped from sharing it, that showed that resveratrol can block the replication of many pox diseases. Do you remember that?
Wait, so when we covered the fact that resveratrol, which many people always talk about, red wine has it or whatever, whatever, that's another Trojan horse. But yes, that resveratrol could stop the spread of it. So you're saying that when we did that story, people weren't able to share the story and it was being blocked on social media?
In 2022, people were being punished for sharing that story on Twitter and Facebook. But
why?
It still exists. The data is still there showing that resveratrol can stop.
Sounds like ivermectin with COVID.
Certain pox.
Isn't that interesting? It's just like, when we found out we knew, and Dr. McCullough on our show and others talking about ivermectin, the benefits of zinc, right? Vitamin D and ivermectin, stuff that people can't make billions of dollars off of, right?
Now, we should not be giving people license because, yes, resveratrol is found in red wine. No, you can't go on a gay sex bender and drink red wine and think you're going to be okay because red wine is not a curative and it's not found in high enough quantities. No matter what CNN tells you, alcohol is not beneficial for your health. So don't do that. What I want to point out here is that there is data that shows that there's a naturally occurring compound that maybe could be concentrated to stop the spread of certain pox viruses, such as monkeypox. But oddly enough, the WHO does not mention this study or any furthering of studies like this in their calls for an emergency. That's funny, right? Because they don't want any readily available treatment that they can't patent and sell. They want a brand new vaccine. Now, Russia is telling its citizens to stand...
Something they can make billions of dollars off of.
down. They are actually not worried about the spread of this. They're on top of it. They're saying they don't think it's a big concern. So are we saying then here on Redacted that monkeypox is not a concern? No, of course not. We're not saying that. We are saying we still have lingering questions that we want to ask while we still can. So while you see these studies roll through your feed, roll through the news, think about these questions that I've prepared for you here, and then just ask yourself, is any of the news coverage addressing these questions? And until we have answers.
Great questions. How did it mutate? Was it gain of function? What are the different modes of transmission besides men who have sex with men, MSM? How did the WHO confirm cases? Did the 500 deaths have pre-existing conditions? Can we confirm that those deaths were caused by or were they deaths with monkeypox? Great question. What of the commonly available treatments such as resveratrol? I knew I wasn't going to pronounce that right, but you know what I mean.
To these questions, we should not concede to an emergency or giving over of our rights or privacy until we know these things. So here are the lingering questions we still don't have. You can screenshot this if you want. Number one, how did it mutate from one clade to a next? Number two, was it gain of function? I would like to know that. Number three, what are the different modes of transmission that the WHO talks about in their press release besides just men who have sex with men? They're just saying it's different. I would like to know specifically how they know that and what qualifies as different. Also, how is the WHO confirming these cases? Because during the COVID pandemic, we saw problem with the types of tests that were being rolled out, that those tests had a high failure rate. So what do we know about those tests? Did the 500 deaths that they're telling us about now have pre-existing conditions? Can we in fact confirm that they were caused by monkeypox, or were those deaths with monkeypox? And what of the currently available treatment, such as resveratrol? So until we get answers to those things, we do not concede to an emergency and therefore the concession of our rights for said fake emergency.
Even then, even after we have those answers.
I mean, well, okay, but we need to leave space for the fact that maybe all of those are true. Maybe it's mutated. Maybe it's no longer just transmitted by sex. Maybe it's really bad. Maybe that's the case. But I want solid answers to these things, because any one of those questions asked about the COVID.
I want to know the truth. We need to know the truth.
Pandemic could have pulled the rug out from under the COVID pandemic. So we know now from experience, sadly, to ask those questions. So we're asking those questions. So save those questions. That's for you. I made that for you. Don't give up your rights until you get satisfactory answers to those questions.
One thing I think is very, very telling out of that is that they want an emergency use. That basically they're saying we want a vaccine for emergency use authorization. Like that's telling.
Immediately.
That is very.
So they're making it emergency.
Right.
Yeah,
exactly. They want to create the emergency, and as we covered here on the show a few weeks ago on Whitney Webb's website, Unlimited Hangout, I think Max Jones was on the show talking about how the creation of the sort of permanent pandemic marketplace for these biopharmaceuticals, right? That's the idea, is that they won't have to run through the normal channels of clinical trials, that they'll be the plan, which has been unearthed in these documents, is that they are going to create sort of a permanent pandemic marketplace.
Right. Towards the end of last year, let's see if I can find it, we did a chart about all of the vaccines that had been authorized just in 2023 that were either fast-tracked or emergency use authorization. I can't find that chart right now, but I had at least, I want to say 5 on that list. It was 3 RSV vaccines, the new COVID booster. I can't remember. So now there are very few new products that make it to market that have the full clinical trials any longer. And so this just seems to be the way of things, and everyone's going to say that's the way it is. Sorry, we did good enough tests, so that's how this is going to go.
Three things we need to do. Number one, do your own research. Don't trust the news. Definitely don't trust everything the WHO or the you or whoever says. Number 2, stop having sex with men. That could help. And if you do, use a condom. That might help too. And number 3, no matter what, trust in the Lord with all your heart and all your mind, and lean not on your own understanding, and all your ways acknowledge Him, and He will direct your path. But we need to know the truth. John 8:32. And we should know the truth. And only the truth can set us free. God bless you and be with you. Like and subscribe. Leave a comment. Take care.